I'm Van Sebastian, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 8, Episode 51 interview. We'll be talking with Bailey Merlin and discussing her book, A Lot of People Live in This House. So, let's get to know our guest. Bailey Merlin is a talented writer with a rich background in fiction and media, medicine, and health. She holds an MFA in fiction from Butler University and an MS from Harvard Medical School, and her writing has been published in numerous literary magazines. In addition to her writing, Bailey has co-performed a spoken word short story album, Bug Eyes, with award-winning jazz guitarist Richie Smith. She's also the librettist of the opera Dime, an opera in 4 acts. Based in Boston, Bailey lives in an intentional community with a dynamic cast of humans, a toddler, a dog, a cat, and a friendly ghost, which I want to hear more about. Bailey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So it sounds like you've been creative your whole life. Where did the spark to write come from? Because that's a different type of creative for sure.
Yeah. And, talking to a lot of writers, we all have a similar story, which is I started writing when I was a kid and I just couldn't help myself. And that's true. Like, I am definitely an only child of divorced parents and used writing as a form of escapism, and which later gave into my own character development. And then once you start, you can't stop no matter what. And I was really convinced at that point, like, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to make writing into a career. So that's why I went to undergrad for writing and English literature, and then later pursued an MFA in fiction. And it really was just, I can't not do this. I can't stop myself. I would stop writing for a while and then all of a sudden, like, what's my hand doing? Why am I writing right now?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So a lot of people live in this house. Is this your debut novel? I know you've written shorter form
Yeah.
stuff.
This is my debut novel.
Woohoo!
I know, it's very much, when I was working on it, it felt like I don't have kids, but when I was in therapy talking about writing this book, it was very much like, you're pregnant right now with this baby. This is I'm like, I don't know what it's like, but I believe you because you have kids.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so at the end of it, I don't know how we got here, but it debuted in May and somehow has been in the world for 6 months now, almost 6 months. And it's really, really weird. I wasn't expecting to write a book during the pandemic, yet again.
There you are.
There it is.
Well, it was either that or banana nut bread, so.
We did both.
Okay.
At that point, I lived with 14 people, and someone's pandemic obsession was bread, and someone else was writing a novel. So,
okay.
Nice. So let's give people the elevator pitch for the novel. Like, if I were to walk up to you at a table and say, "What's your book about?" What would you say?
I would say, would you have liked to live with 14 people during a global pandemic that you could not leave a house with? I bet you would. No, that's not the real answer. I'm like, imagine coming into a house with 11 strangers, even though you don't want to, and then slowly falling in love with everyone in the house and having a warm family dynamic that you've always secretly yearned for, but never had. And to me, and then I hook them and like, all right, do you know what intentional living is? I'm like, no, I don't. Tell me more. Yes, my agenda.
I have you now.
Yeah.
So the other piece of that I was gleaning just from the book's synopsis is that your main character is coming to this from a point of grief. Like, she also needs to heal.
Yeah. So Rachel is my reluctant hero. Her and her husband Job have been traveling the world for a year in the wake of their daughter's death, and they've been searching solace in all of the places by trying to escape this idea of home. But the longer they're out there in the world, the more Job realizes we need to put down roots now or we're never going to do it. So you pick the city and I'll pick the place. And so she's like, oh, I pick Boston. And he says, great, I found this place on Craigslist. Let's live with a bunch of strangers because I think it'll be good for us. Now you go set up a house and I'm going to go stay in India for 2 more weeks so that I can like unpack my grief by myself. And she says, okay, I only want to do it for 3 months. I was like, you got it, babe. And then she moves in, and 2 weeks later, the entire world shuts down.
Wow.
And
So he's stuck in India.
He's stuck in India, and they got to figure out how to get Job home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your cast of characters. Who's in the house with her?
So she ultimately has 10 housemates, and so plus her and Job, there are 12 people total. And these folks are from every walk of life. You've got people who are from Colombia, you've got students from Venezuela, you've got someone who's studying at MIT from Germany, you've got an old Venezuelan grandmother, you've got basically like every kind of profession living in this house. And they are all so nice. And I think for Rachel, that's like the most frustrating part, is she comes in locked and loaded to dislike everything about this experience so that she can leave in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But from day one, I was like, let me get your bag for you. Can I make you a cup of tea? Someone coming up to her room is like, oh, I see you already have a cup of tea. Would you like another cup of tea? Oh, a third person walking in, like, would you also like oh, I see you already have a cup of tea. And so like, it's hard to dislike people who are very genuinely caring and turn out to not be a cult at all, just a group of nice people.
Okay, one, I can already tell this book has some humor to it.
Yes.
And what a wonderful way to introduce people to the concept.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, I believe so.
Yeah, it's definitely a funny book. I kind of like pitched it as a dramedy, something that, oh, it'll make you laugh and it'll make you cry. But I didn't realize how much crying the audience would actually wind up doing. I had friends texting me like, Bailey, I've been sobbing for the last 6 chapters. It's so beautiful, but I hate you so much. And like, I thought it was funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was funny to me. We just have different senses of humor. But there is a lot of situational comedy. Like there's a scene where the entire cast of character participates in Chopped, the show, where you get mystery items in a basket. It's their way of cleaning out the fridge and the cabinets. And so there's 10 people trying to make 3 dishes each, and it's absolute chaos. And people are fighting over a blender, and someone's telling a story about a beef Wellington, and it's just absolute chaos, but in the best sort of way.
Wow, I love that.
Well, I also love the fact that, you see it as the dramedy kind of thing, but with that emphasis maybe on comedy because of your sense of humor. But comedy's born out of all these things, and so the fact that you take someone grieving and you have them discover this through forms of comedy, I think that's the way life works. That's how we cope.
Yeah, I find that grief, as someone who has experienced grief can be very funny. Like it's just so absurd that sometimes you just have to laugh at the way, oh, well, that's how life is. And if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And that doesn't sound very fun. So
yeah, right. Excellent.
Yep. So Rachel has a husband. What are some of the other groupings within the house?
So there is there's like a core little family, the owners of the house, Ted and Daniela, and Daniela's mother, Francesca. And Daniela's expecting, so the 3 of them are soon to be 4. You have a couple who go to Berklee College for Music together. You have a doctor from New Orleans. You have a couple from a little all over the place, but most recently California. And you have a dog and a cat and a German student. Is that everybody? Yeah, that's everybody. So these folks really are not people you would meet, who would ever meet organically. It's not, Berklee students aren't associating with Venezuelan grandmothers unless they like, oh, well, we live here now, so you're my grandma now. Or you don't have a person who's in residency as an OBGYN at MGH, the Massachusetts General Hospital, would ever cross paths with another human being, because residency is so hard. But because they chose to live in this house and committed to the model of intentional living, then it's like, oh, well, I choose to live here and this is my family. That's nice.
So now that we have the backbone of your novel, let's define intentional community and explain to people what it is and the benefits of it.
I was really thinking about this answer because it's such a intentional living means different things. There are a lot of different models. For me, the core of intentional living is people living in the same space and agreeing to share time, space, resources, and care. And what that looks like is, maybe I I'm having a really long week and someone makes lunch for me. Or we all share a grocery bill, which at a time like this, sharing grocery bill with 10 people makes life a lot easier.
That part right there.
Yeah. There are different models of intentional living. Sometimes you have people grouped up based on age. So you have 55 plus, sometimes you have college kids, people who are all vegetarians. There's just so many different ways of doing living. I think the most common model is multi-generational, which is having, a lot of different people of different ages, like this book, multi-generational living. And it's just strangers who become family, and you share care because you're considerate. And from there, like, life is much easier because you don't have to shoulder this burden. You don't have to do life alone. And I do also like to mention that intentional living doesn't mean that you're in a cult. I think that's like really important to underline. When I moved into intentional living myself, my mom was like, so what's going on in there? Like, are you guys in a cult? What happens? Like, Mom, there's no charismatic leader. No one, I'm the charismatic leader. Okay. Like, I'm the most charismatic person in this house. I promise it's not a cult. And if there is a religion, it's just food. Like, we just like to eat, and that's it. So that's kind of a very broad definition because it is broad. But when I tell people, like, my rent is very low because I live with 9 people, and my grocery bill is about $250 a month for everything, then they're like, tell me more. Tell me more about this.
Nice. Well, and there's also the care component too, and I'm going to liken it to a thing that a lot of other queer authors say is that in their novels, they have a found family component where, you've built your family by the people who love and support you, not necessarily the ones you're bound to by blood. And it sounds like this is a very real life way to experience that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. As a bisexual person, I was surprised to find out that so many other of my housemates over the years have also been some type of bisexual, pansexual, some type of queer. I'm like, why do we group like that? Why do we just like look for each other? But it's this idea that we're all yearning for care. We're yearning for family. And when you find folks who are just kind of gentle-hearted and have everyone's best intention at their core, it's so easy to get along and to say like, oh, I want you to succeed. I want to help you get to the end of your residency, or I want to be at your book release, or I want to help your daughter learn how to walk. And so like, it is so fascinating. And I wanted to bring my experiences in intentional living into a book about intentional living, where the main character is this person who is so against it. Like Rachel, again, I said reluctant hero, and I really meant it. Rachel is not interested in living with strangers. She thinks that these people are out to get her. She thinks that they're like, what do you want? What do you want from me? Because everybody leaves eventually, but they wear her down with care. It's like, I'll show you again and again and again how many times you need to understand that you're safe in this place with us. And then after that, she wants to contribute. Like, that's the goal. Like, I'll make you trust me, and then you'll feel comfortable enough to give care and get care.
Nice.
So what's other than the fact that, you identify as queer, but is there queer representation within the book and the characters themselves? So, for our audience, I'm sure that's one of the questions that are in their head.
So when I was writing this book, Rachel was always a bi character.
Okay.
I have definitely gotten into tense moments with readers because they're like, well, it's not explicit that she's bisexual. She's not going into rooms like, hello, my name is Rachel and I'm bisexual. And that fight to me is frustrating because as a bi person who is in a relationship with a cisgendered man, people assume I'm straight. And it's like, you're erasing my character for not banging a pot and pan or having like a bi flag in her room and saying to the world, like, I'm bisexual. That aside, there is a non-binary character named Ren, who is my favorite character.
Nice.
And there's polyamorous representation. There's other bi plus representation. And for me, it wasn't about shoehorning in queer rep. It was more about these people are just, they're living their lives, and we're here and we're queer and we're used to it. So what should I tell
Plus the fact that, as you get to know people, you're onion skinning those levels of who they are.
Yeah.
So that stuff should happen organically anyways. As you say, you're not going to walk around with little sticker on saying, "Hey, pie, what are you?" So
Yeah.
I kind of like that whole idea that those things may be representative, but you'll find a way to weave it without necessarily saying, "I'm waving a flag over here."
Yeah. I think any future projects I do might be a little more tongue in cheek about it, where a character walks in and be like, "Oh, and by the way."
Yeah, right. Assumptions much?
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Love it. Is there anything else about the novel we didn't think to ask that you would like people to know?
Um, some feedback that I've gotten about the book from readers in the last couple of months is that this book has a lot of representation around mental health and
Oh.
mental health care, which wasn't my intention. They say they read this book and they feel the anxiety of the main character very deeply. Like, I don't usually read books that portray anxiety the way this does. I'm like, well, it's because I have anxiety. Thank you for noticing my truth. But sometimes I kind of wonder, what do I want readers to take away with that? There's this large mental health part of Rachel in particular, where she's unlikable for most of the book. Like, people don't like Rachel because she's unpleasant to be around. And I just want readers to think about, why do you not like her? Is it because she's unfriendly, or is it because she's going through something right now? And maybe to pause your assumptions on someone if they're acting a little out of pocket. Like, what are they going through that might make them that way? And can you show more compassion to strangers or to people in your life who aren't performing the way you want them to?
And plus, it sounds, from the way you're talking about the characters in the book and the intentional living, it's a way of exercising that empathy muscle that we've, as of late, and especially heightened through COVID, we really forgot to use as a society. So I think it's kind of a way of showing that through your prose, that, hey, people, come on, we can do this. This is something you can actually do, in your own
It's a
life.
practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
Huh? Well, and to the people who leave reviews like that, I would just like to say this is part of Rachel's growth. We talk about wanting to see our characters grow and change and become better.
Right.
This is her journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the character's the same on page 1 as they are on page whatever the end is,
Yeah.
what was the effort for?
All right. And for folks who would like to learn more about intentional community, intentional living, and families of all makeups, I would like to say that the city of Cambridge just this week became the second city in the United States to recognize family configurations of all sorts. No questions. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I know. So,
That's
by all
something to wave
means,
a flag about.
that is something
I
to wave a
know.
flag about. That's a huge step forward in family dynamics.
Yeah, it
So,
is. And I'm thinking about, like, the own family dynamics that are in the house that I live in. We have a 3-year-old who lives here. She was born and raised in communal living, and she has a bunch of aunts and uncles.
yeah.
It's very unusual, and she's a very unusual kid, but she's so compassionate, and she's so interested in other people and things. And she's still 3, so I want to underline, she's not like a little baby Messiah or whatever, but she's definitely, like, very far along in her, I don't know, her development, because she has all of these adults who talk to her like an adult. And I'm just so excited to think that these other family models can be more normalized, because I think that for a long time, children were raised in communities like this, and we got away from that.
We forgot.
We forgot it, even though it's a model that works and it helps people, parents in particular, where you're just operating in a 2-parent household, from being exhausted all the time. It allows you to continue being a person, and also means that you have trust in the people around you enough to leave your child with them. And that's a big thing, to have that kind of level of trust in your life. So way to go, Cambridge.
Bravo. All right. Are you ready for our get to know you questions?
Let's do it.
Take it away, Baz. That was the best answer yet.
Right. Okay. In this year of WoW, what one word describes your favorite food?
Miso soup.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, your favorite entertainment genre?
Video games.
Oh, okay. Where are you in the spectrum of mundane versus magical?
Balanced.
Okay. Well, I'll take that. Your preferred level of PDA?
Romantic.
Okay. The environment where you relax the most?
Living room.
Your preferred beverage?
Seltzer.
Oh, okay. Where do you fall on the scale of youthful naivete versus the wisdom of experience?
Perceptive.
Love that. All right. And your favorite fictional character?
So basic, but Elizabeth Bennet.
You gotta, you
Yeah.
just gotta, Okay. Maybe we'll dive into which Elizabeth Bennet do you like?
Ooh.
Because there have been a lot of iterations.
That's true.
Yep.
All right. And finally, your favorite mode of travel?
Trains. They're amazing.
That's been the big winner of
Yeah.
this entire year that we've been asking these questions. Trains by far and away have been the biggest answer that we've gotten.
Yeah.
If you don't understand why, book a train passage somewhere for
Yeah.
like a couple of hours. Like, wow, I can get up and walk around and go get a snack, and the
I can
bathroom
read
is
in
tiny,
comfort. Someone
amazing.
else is doing the driving.
Yeah, exactly. I'm low enough to the ground.
That too.
Nice.
Well, you made it through the list. Bravo.
Thank you.
All right, so Bailey, what are you up to next? Are you doing more writing? Are you going to focus more on DMA? What's going on?
So I'm actually working on something very, very, very different from a lot of people live in this house. I've returned to historical romance. It's so much fun. I'm moving away from grief and unpacking trauma and just writing a story about people in love for a little bit. And it's funny and it's just fun. I'm working on it in a writers group I started called the Bi Plus Book Gang. And
Nice.
that is because in May, when the book came out, I looked to my left and I didn't have any writing community. And I looked to my right and I didn't have any bisexual community. I said, how did that happen?
Oh no.
And I wondered if any other bisexual authors felt that way. And surprise, surprise, they did. So now we're
Sometimes
like
it's the magical question that you
Yeah.
ask that everybody had on their minds, but nobody bothered to verbalize,
Exactly. There are 50 of us in this group now.
Oh my
See?
God.
2 months ago. And so I'm working on that group. That's something that's really important to me and is the only thing getting me through this rough draft right now, because after you publish a book, you forget how hard it was to write the book and edit the book, and you're like, I could do that again, no problem. What was I thinking?
What time period?
What
time period?
It is set in 1825 Victorian London because, again,
Ooh.
basic, but I
Yep.
just love it so much.
Well, the Regency period was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's also when men were the most romantic as far as the silhouette of what they wore.
And well dressed.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And riding boots.
Oh, the riding boots.
Hello. Where is the best place for people to follow and connect with you?
I'd say my TikTok, my Instagram, which is at bamaram_Merlin, and at my website, baileymerlin.com.
Awesome. Any final words of wisdom?
Thank you so much for having me and for building out a community for writers and readers. It's rough out in these streets, and it's important that we support each other.
Yeah, there's a place for everybody at the table.
Yes. Yeah, you took the words right out of our mouth. Thank you for being part of the community. All right, folks. Again, want to thank Bailey Merlin for joining us and bringing such a delightful novel and topic to our show. We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you like what you're hearing, sign up, subscribe, follow us. The show was produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.